Welcome back to Starkiller Base. Today we're going to do a quick little review of the Last Jedi spoiler article from FFG. So the first card we have here is Snoke, the Supreme Leader. He's an 11/13 blue villain with 11 hit points, so it's got a nice cost and a good number of hit points. His die sides show a 2 indirect, a 1 focus, a 2 focus, a 1 disrupt, a 1 resource, and a blank. So definitely a supporting character here. He is a character and leader. And he has a power action, deal 1 damage to another one of your characters to resolve one of its character dice, increasing its value by 2. So there's definitely got some interesting potential here. You could put him in with a melee damage character and just deal 1 damage to the character and turn their 2 melee into a 4. You can fit him with Thrawn and do a damage to Thrawn to resolve one of his 2 resources for 4 resources and just build some sort of crazy vehicle deck. Since there's no yellow, you can't really include Buyout and Crime Lord and that sort of thing. That being said, you could put him with a yellow character like Unkar or Jabba or somebody and actually build a Crime Lord deck or a Buyout deck. The blue definitely adds some survivability with Force illusions and things like that. So it's definitely interesting. As an 11/13, he's pretty versatile. You can fit him in with a lot of people. Cad Bane fits with him, that sort of thing. I think the power actions are really good. And I think he's going to see a lot of play. So next up we have Power from Pain. It is a 0-cost blue villain event. It says spot 2 blue characters or Snoke to deal 1 damage to one of your characters. Then turn one of that character's character or upgrade dice to any side. So I guess the deal 1 damage to your character is in lieu of there being a actual resource cost to the card. We'll see that there's actually some synergy with one of the upcoming cards when you deal a damage to one of your characters. But of course, in Destiny, the cost of dealing a damage to your characters is kind of dangerous, particularly in this 2-character meta when most decks have like 21 or 22 hit points. So we'll see if that one gets any play. Here's the card I was referring to. It's called Torment. It is a 1-cost upgrade. It's villain blue. After attached character is dealt damage, you may exhaust this upgrade to gain a resource. So this one is a one of the cards that is economy but pays for itself the following turn. So if you use Snoke's ability, you could ping, if you put it on another character, you could ping the character that has Torment on it to gain a resource. If you use the Power from Pain, you basically get to turn the die and also gain a resource. So it's kind of interesting. Like I said, I'm not a fan of doing damage to myself. However, this one says after attached character is dealt damage, so it doesn't need to be coming from you. If your opponent hits you for 2 melee, you can exhaust and get a resource. So it's an extra, you put it on the main target, it's an extra resource a turn, as long as they can last for a while. I mean, if you put it on a character and they die the following turn, then the card basically just paid for itself and took up an upgrade slot, and it was kind of a waste. So we'll see if people can make this one work. Next we have Leia Organa, the Heart of the Resistance. She is a 12/15 red hero with 11 hit points, so a decent number of hit points. Her die sides show a 2 focus, a 1 discard, a 2 discard, a 1 shield, a 1 resource, and a blank. So definitely interesting to see some hero mill that has some hand destruction. She has a power action that says remove one of your character dice to discard cards from the top of a deck equal to the value showing on that die. She's a character leader. So one of the interesting things about playing a mill deck, particularly one that has discard, is that typically if you're playing against an aggro deck, your opponent rolls in, you have to spend actions and money to mitigate their dice, and then you sometimes end up rolling your characters in very late, and by the time you rolled your characters in, sometimes your opponent has no cards left in hand. So instead of having a 2 discard become a dead side, her power action allows you to use it to get rid of 2 cards off the top of your opponent's deck. So it's really interesting because it allows you to have that flexibility. Because she's a red hero, she also can run 3PO and use those 2 discard sides for just about anything she wants. Double focus is fantastic. And then, of course, one card that hasn't seen a lot of play because there are not a lot of red dice showing discard is Commando Raid. So you could actually use Commando Raid in a Leia deck, which is resolve one of your red dice showing discard, increasing its value by 2, and then draw a card. So you could turn her 2 discard side into a 4 discard side and just ravage your opponent's entire hand in one shot, which sounds pretty good to me. So you should definitely look out for Leia becoming one of the contenders for a hero mill deck. I don't know if she'll be paired with Cassian and just have a ton of discard sides and 3PO and mill, or a single die Leia with a single die Yoda and somebody else. But there's definitely going to be some deck building done with her. Next up, we have Motivate. It is a 0-cost red hero event. It says spot 2 red characters or Leia Organa to resolve one of your character dice, increasing its value by 1. So it's got the similar theme to the Snope card, spot 2 of a certain color character or just the named character itself. One thing to note, of course, is that because Leia's ability is removing a character die, and this one is resolving a character die, you cannot use her power action and Motivate together. But it's not terrible. I mean, again, 0 cost. It's hard to argue with a 0-cost card. If you're running Leia with Cassian and you have a discard side on Cassian, you can use Motivate to make it discard an extra card. I'm not sure that I would run it in a mill deck per se, because mill decks generally rely on their events to do a lot of their work and not their dice. In a damage deck that has multiple red characters or old school Leia, then this could be really good. But I'm not sure I'm going to be seeing a lot of that one in the meta. Next up, we have DJ, the Treacherous Rogue. He is a 13/16 with 11 hit points, so he is kind of pricey, but we'll see that if his ability and his die size make up for it. So his die size are a 2 ranged, a 1 disrupt, a 1 discard, a 1 resource, and a blank. And his character ability reads, after you remove 1 or more of an opponent's dice, you may deal 1 indirect damage to that opponent for each die you just removed. If you're running cards that remove multiple dice, his ability can be pretty good. I like his die sides. I mean, not having modified sides or pay sides is pretty great, although we don't see a lot of that stuff in the latest cycle. As an alt art card creator, when I see niche characters like DJ come out, it does make me cringe a little bit, but we'll see what we can do with that. So yeah, I mean, if you played block and got rid of 5 melee dice, not only would you save your own butt, but you'd also be able to do 5 indirect damage to an opponent, which is a huge win. Admittedly, it doesn't happen often, but maybe we'll see a card that allows you to remove multiple dice, like this one. We have In the Crosshairs. It's a 3-cost neutral yellow event. It has ambush. It says choose a symbol, then remove any number of dice showing that symbol. So this is sort of like a forced misdirection that does not require blue heroes and does not require the symbol to be showing on blue dice. So this is pretty amazing. I mean, it's well costed. Ambush is cool, I guess, although I don't even think it's necessary. But of course, if you went down to a 2-cost and removed ambush, I think the card would be overpowered. So definitely a good card. If this is one card that DJ could use to do some pretty serious indirect damage if he can come up with the money for it. And lastly here we have Sticky Situation. It is a 1-cost yellow villain event. It reads, force an opponent to choose a die, then remove a different die. So this one is kind of weird. It doesn't remove your opponent's best die. You just say, hey, you've got a 3 melee there. I'm going to play Sticky Situation and make you choose your best die, which might be the 3 melee, and then you can remove any other die. So, I suppose in a situation where your opponent has a 2 melee and a +2 melee, it gets rid of 2 damage because they would just choose the 2 melee. But typically you want targeted removal that allows you to choose. Like if I'm spending a card and a resource to get rid of a die, I'd like to be the one that chooses the die that goes away. I don't want, basically I'm getting rid of your second best die for 1, which is okay, but if the lethal damage is on the 1 die and all I have is Sticky Situation for mitigation, then my character is still dead. So that's it for the article here. There's one card in the fan called Inspiring Presence, which we can't quite see, but it's really interesting because the set's coming out in about a week, and we've seen maybe 60 cards out of 160, so there's plenty yet to come. One of the local stores has apparently opened boxes and made text copies of all the cards, and you can find those descriptions on the Knights of Ren Facebook page, so go check that out if you're really interested in finding everything there. I do have to admit, I kind of like opening packs and being surprised by what I see, and that hasn't really happened with the previous sets simply because of, Polish distributors spoiling sets and that sort of thing, or holiday preview waves that came out in other countries first or whatnot. But, hey. So hopefully you're excited about these cards and looking forward to the Way of the Force like I am. Thanks for watching Starkiller Base, and we'll see you next time.